Welcome back to Nortman Reviews, everyone. I'm John Norton, your host, and we're looking at an old issue of Uncanny X-Men. So I was going through the whole run of Joe Madureira comic books, ultimately till the point, issue 350, when he ends. I need to find that issue. I can't find it, but I know I had it. Maybe it got lost or ruined. Maybe I just have to buy another one, but I'm going to do it. But in the meantime, I was looking through some issues, and I missed one. So we're going back in time. So we were at number 346, 347, or something like that. This is number 340. So the X-Men were in space. This goes before that. So what's going on here? These storylines weren't just going on in Uncanny X-Men. It was also going on in the regular X-Men books. And this is post-Onslaught, where the heroes, Avengers and Fantastic Four, are gone. It looks like they died, and mutants are taking the blame for it. And there's Operation Zero Tolerance in full swing. And it's headlined by this guy named Bastion, who he's kind of a boring villain. And I don't really know what happens to him. He's like a weird hybrid of Master Mold and Nimrod, a Van Sentinel from the future, but he's this weird human guy. I don't fucking know. Doesn't make any sense. But he's like doing this big thing, this big push against mutants again. If you're watching the X-Men 97, I watched a video that was breaking down, and he showed up in some of those episodes in a very brief manner. Like, I totally missed it. Someone else brought it up. Like, one of these videos pointed it out. I won't be surprised if he shows up in that series. But anyways, Graydon Creed, Mystique and Sabretooth's son, who's human, who hates fucking mutants, he is doing a political campaign. He's running for president. And they put Iceman and Cannonball, they're undercover. They infiltrated his campaign to just kind of keep an eye on things and see what he was going to do. And this issue deals with some of that shit that's going on. It's a son's pain. There's Iceman. There's his dad. And it was established that his dad and him did not have a good relationship. He did not like that he was a mutant. All that kind of shit. So they didn't have a great, they weren't very loving, but what's going on here? So we open up with, again, we're here for Joe Mad's art. Scott Lobdell's the writer. Tim Townsend, inker. And Bobby Drake, Iceman, he's mourning over this body of what is, I guess, is his dad. And he's kind of monologuing to himself that he's an X-Man and he's here to save the world, but he doesn't know why he's doing it at this point. He's like, I don't know why I'm here. He's just super sad. One thing, I was going through this issue, and what is interesting, as we'll point out, this is an X-Men superhero comic book. I don't think at any single point in this issue any of the X-Men are in their costumes or use their powers. I don't think they use their powers. I think this is the only time you see Iceman in his ice form is on this cover. This is more of a personalized, tragic story of what's going on. So Iceman's all sad, and Storm comes to comfort him, and she's probably thinking to herself, I need to find a fucking barber and just cut these off, or just find a pair of scissors. I hate this hairdo, this short haircut. That's fine, but this long strands in the front, I just always fucking hate it. And it's still Iceman thinking to himself, and you gotta explain to a new reader who all these people are here. This is Storm. She's called Storm because he has the power to control the elements, and this is Gambit, Remy LeBeau. He's called Gambit because, I don't know, I'll have to ask him sometime. That's kind of funny, but... So, Storm's she's like, what happened? And he says, they tried to kill my dad. That's what happened. They're like, who? Who did this to him? Creed. I always thought the intensity of this face, the emotion in these eyes was really good. Very well drawn. You can just see like the anger, the sadness, the tears, the grief, all that. So then it goes to Cannonball, Sam Guthrie. And again, he's monologuing to himself, so we all know what's going on. And he's hanging around the Graydon Creed presidential campaign. He's pretending like he's undercover as like an aide or something like that. He's got these two fucking hulking bodyguards. That's a little exaggeration, but it's kind of cool. And he wants to come by, like get by, and they grab his wrist. He's like, Creed doesn't want to be disturbed, and Cannonball's just looking at him, and like, even though this guy's huge, I can think of at least 12 different ways to remove his hand, half of which would allow him to keep it attached. But he has to be subtle. So he's like, okay, well, if I can't go in, like, just tell him like I'll be back later. God, this guy's fucking humongous. That's like Hulk size right there. But Graydon Creed, he's like, oh, it's like, okay, it's fine. Give Sam and I a few minutes together. And he says, of course. And Creed is talking to him. He's like, oh, your time couldn't be better. I need you to help me solve a problem. I don't know what all this dialogue is here. I was talking about the difference between Astonishing X-Men and like old Uncanny X-Men issues, and like where there's just very little like word boxes. Like you see the difference in some of these. Like you just allow God, there's fucking, there's no dialogue boxes telling you everything that's going on. It just like tells the story. And I like this style way more than all this fucking dialogue. Like Robert has said this in my brother Rob in his channel said this really brilliantly. Like writers feel the need to like write something to like prove that they're a writer, but it's like silent like images is also a form of writing. So Creed wants to talk to Cannonball. So we go up. Oh, there's a use of her power. She's flying right there. So now Iceman, he's telling Storm about what happened. And it's like kind of goes in this flashback as he's telling. And the coloring is slightly different to show you that it's in a flashback. Almost like an old TV like lighting. So he says like I was talking strategy with this. He was kind of like flirting with this other like this woman who's also on the team, and they're in like the limo of Graydon Creed. When Creed looks at him and he's like, "Do you believe the sins of one generation are passed to the next?" And he's like, "I don't know. What are you talking about?" He says, "Let's say if a father behaves a certain way, do you believe the son will as well?" He's like, "I don't know what you're talking about. I always like these drawings of him. He made like Iceman look like a handsome young man here." He's like, "Good, Robert, I'd like you to help me solve a little problem," which is what he's saying to Cannonball back here. And he's like out there in the clearing, and the girl he was kind of chatting up, she has this worried look, so he goes walking out there. But as he gets closer, he realizes there was something wrong. He feels it in his heart, and like the jet that they were going up to leave, it does leave, and he finds his dad's body broken and beaten, but he's still alive. And you thought that Creed here was talking, when he talks about sins of one generation passed to the next, talking about his parents' sins being passed down on him, but he was talking about Iceman and his dad and the relationship. But he's basically, Creed found out who he was, or that whether he was a mutant or not, I don't know if they knew that, but he knows that he wasn't supposed to be there, and he was being kind of shady for Creed and what he was doing. So they punished him by attacking his dad. He must have figured like father, like son, but the dad, he didn't tell them anything, and like the dialogue is like, "Dad, shh." He's like, "I didn't tell your secret. Just wanted to know you're safe, son. You're safe." That's like, that kind of gets me being a dad now. Like, I'm sure anybody who has a child can kind of feel that, like just wants to keep their children, their son safe. And they also talk about, I guess he stood up for mutants' rights during a news broadcast that happened in another issue. So he's telling Storm this. And he's just like, he's kind of freaking out because like his whole life he acts like he hates me, but then he does this and he just doesn't know how to process his emotions. It's like, why would he do that? And she says, I can think of only one reason. So then it goes back to Creed and Cannonball, Sam, and they're chit-chatting, and he's asking about his father. And so he knows about Iceman. Does he know about Cannonball here? So he starts talking about his dad, and he's thinking to himself, how do I answer that? And I guess the truth. And he talked about how his dad was kind of a blue-collar guy, worked from dusk till dawn. In the mines. So just tells him like, yeah, my dad was a worker. He was a hard worker. He did what people of that generation did, you know. And it's like, and what about you, sir? What about your father? He's holding this glass here. And he just fucking crushes it when he mentions his dad. He says, gotcha. He's like, oh God, are you okay? Like the glass like hurts his hand, cuts him. He has to wrap it up. He's like, I'm fine. And he's like, my father and I were not close. And in this other glass, you see like this crazy shot of Sabretooth's face. But Creed says, like, I can honestly say he was inspirational. Yeah, that's one way of putting it. So go back to the hospital. Gambit's hanging out in the room, kind of watching over the dad, making sure nothing happens to him while Storm and Iceman are chit-chatting. And the dad kind of wakes up. He's like, oh, you're one of my son's friends. And he's like, Iceman and Gambit aren't really friends. But he's like, yeah, I guess we're friends. He's like, I'll go get him. But he's like, why do you do it? You're a good-looking guy, just like my son. Like, if you didn't tell people, who would know? And he doesn't really answer, but he says, like, what about you? Like, nobody told you to go up again, like, speak on behalf of mutants, but you did. He said, that's different. He was threatening my family, a lot of families. It isn't right what he's doing. And Gambit tells him, like, that's the same reason we do it, because it's not right. This is a kind of cool silhouette shot of, like, him in the bed. Gambit kind of sitting there, and they're talking. So outside the hospital, there's this van with these, must be Friends of Humanity or whatever. And they tracked him down. They're like, it's like shooting fish in a barrel. So these guys are going to they're going to attack. And they're like, I'm tracking two on the roof, on a floor below, probably at bedside. And like, we're going to take him out. He's like, I feel bad that we're not doing this up close and personal. And they're about to shoot him from something. I don't know what they're going to do. But somebody from behind, not a problem, bub. And the font is slightly different. They all turn in horror. You want to rumble all up close and personal? I'm just the guy to accommodate you. Wolverine, right? Doesn't matter. That's kind of a cool image I'm making. Is Wolverine? God, he comes through the fucking roof right there, and no one heard him, or did it really fast. But he just jumps down in this van, and you can kind of tell that their van is rumbling and shaking, and like he's just probably murdering these guys right inside there. Wolverine, he's slowly transitioning away from his stupid Wolverine ape look. That's still kind of a crazy look for him. He still kind of has these crazy teeth. So, oh yeah, I remember the Super Nintendo game. Anybody play that game? Marvel War of the Gems. It's kind of fun, but kind of basic. So Storm and Iceman, they're still talking. What are they talking about? She's just like comforting him. They're telling stories about each other's families and about relationships and life and loss and all that kind of stuff. It's kind of cute. It's a sweet moment that they have, and I like this shot down here of them kind of just holding on to each other as friends and comforting each other. And like there's a shooting star. They're just looking up at the night sky. So yeah, this is the only time like, you know, like any action happens and nothing really happens at all. This is the only other time someone uses their powers. Cannonball's at a bar somewhere drinking, and Jean Grey is checking in on him telepathically. And she's basically like, Bobby's cover has been blown. If you are worried, if you think your cover's blown, say the word, we'll pull you out. Like, we'll get you out of there right now. He's like, I appreciate it, but I'm in this to the end. I'm fine. She's reading this book, Sword of Shannara. That was kind of popular at the time. I never read it, though. And so Iceman, he's like, I'm not coming back to the X-Men. I'm going to stay here and take care of my dad, so I need to take a break. They understand. Are you sure about this? And he just says, like, the X-Men have always needed me, but right now my parents need me more than ever. So that's kind of sweet. And may the bright light be with you. So they leave. I like that image of her. They put, like, a weird action light. I don't know. Even Gambit has them. I don't know what the purpose of that is. But they leave. Nice shot of her walking. And he sits with them and his dad, and they just have this moment. It says, Dad, I love you. The saga of Graydon Creed continues in X Factor. Well, I don't have that. No one did. Was anybody reading X Factor? Yeah, the next issue after this was the Christmas Eve issue. Cannonball fighting Gladiator. Oh, there's Deadpool. Joe Kelly and Ed McGuinness. Top Cow and Marvel together at last. Oh yeah, this is the Devil's Reign. I want to look at that too. Like, I have that trade paperback with a bunch of Top Cow and Marvel crossovers. That was a crazy fucking weird story. All right. That's the end of that issue. Another issue of Joe Mad. We're getting to the end of his run, and then we're going to have to figure out something else to look at. Is there another artist or run of books, X-Men or whatever, that you want to see if I have or I can get my hands on? I'm thinking about doing some Jim Lee books. I have a Visionaries book of Jim Lee like I did with Joe Mad. Maybe I'll look at some of those. I don't know. But if you have any suggestions, let me know. Thank you for watching. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and as always, I will see you in the next video.